Shalom everybody, Akiva here from AMHSI, standing in front of this cute little house. Check out this building behind me. Now you probably would never guess that I'm in Tel Aviv. The truth is, I am in Tel Aviv, right? To prove it, you can see the skyscrapers, the apartment buildings behind me. See those tall ones over there? Right? We are surrounded by office buildings, by apartment buildings. But here, this building and many others like it in this area are part of an area of Tel Aviv called Sarona, with a very interesting history. Long story short, this was built in the 1870s by German templars who came here to the Holy Land. Right? Many Christians, both from America and from Europe, were coming around this time in the mid to later 1800s with this kind of messianic vision of returning to the land, and yes, inspiring Jews to do the same. They specifically set up here an agricultural settlement and one of the first farming settlements in the land to farm for profit, not just to sustain themselves and sustain their lives. This grew and you had hundreds of people living here. Time goes on, World War I, the British take over, and during the British Mandate and towards the end of the British Mandate, with the rise of Nazism in Germany, these Germans here living in Sarona, as well as in other German colonies around the land, started to display their support for the Nazis. And during World War II, you would see Nazi flags hanging from their homes in some of these areas. Now the British, obviously not into that, fighting the Germans in Europe, started to dispel them, started to expel the Germans living in these colonies. This Sarona here, just one of a few different German colonies in Palestine at the time. A very strange history, a very strange story. Eventually they were all kicked out. And of course in 1948, the Jews set up their own state and eventually take over these buildings. There's a whole story about that. First governmental buildings and military buildings, and then eventually residential buildings. And then decades go on and this place becomes a very kind of like rundown, decrepit area. And eventually, not that many years ago, the Tel Aviv municipality decided to like refurbish, renovate this place, bring it back to life. And they made this amazing area called the Sarona Market. And today it's this gorgeous place for people to come, all kinds of shops and restaurants, for people to come, to walk around, sit on the grass in the middle of the city, have a quiet moment. There in the back you have the indoor place with lots of great restaurants. And many of these buildings are the original buildings from that original colony. Today again, there's stores and restaurants and a place for people to come and enjoy. A little history from Tel Aviv. I hope you get to come here soon to see it yourself. All the best.